then yeah.
Welcome to the Rourke Art Museum. It's starting to see you all here. We do have a few more seats down in front the park as well. My name is Courtney Donahue. I'm a curator and executive director here at the Rourke. I got to begin by thanking a bunch of different wonderful folks. First, our members, without whom we wouldn't still be here. I want to thank, recently, we've had an influx of student interns from MSUM, so I want to thank them for their help, particularly over this last month. Samantha Jacobson, Trent Regner, and Joe Crull for all of their assistance and helping us get, I think, 5 exhibits up this month. It's been a lot. So we appreciate their help with that. And I also want to thank the Minnesota State Arts Board, the Arts Partnership, and the F&M Area Foundation for their critical financial support as well. All right. I know that most of you probably know Courtney Donahue in one capacity or another. She's been working here at the museum since 2017, so many of you will know her as a member of our staff, our registrar. Those of you who are family will know her as Courtney. But all of you should know her as a gifted artist. When she told me what she envisioned for this second exhibit, that it was going to be clouds, I knew it was going to be all right. Just a little bit of background directing on my part. Both as a gallerist and sometimes instructor, I have found that unless someone is really up to the task, working serially may not always be the greatest thing. In the hands of another artist, this exhibit could have been repetitious and dull, and it is anything but that. Courtney takes a very studied, deliberate approach to things, but I think you'll find that this work still has a great deal of expression and certainly color to it. So I hope you'll all join me in welcoming Courtney Donahue.
Why clouds, I guess, is kind of the big question that I've gotten the most. What's the deal with clouds? So I'm going to dive into where this all started. About 2-ish years ago, a little over 2 years ago. So for some context, my last kind of cohesive series of work, I finished in spring of 2022 with that show. So for the year following year and a half, I was like, okay, what next? Like, what am I working on next? That series of work was building off of what I had done in college, and so, yeah, I was trying to kind of find what interested me. And I take a lot of walks. I'm a big walker. I noticed that as I was going on these walks, I would be stopping and staring a lot at the clouds and the cloudscapes above me, and I just thought they were nice. I mean, I thought they were gorgeous, but I was doing that a lot, and anytime I kind of repeatedly am drawn back to something, I start to kind of make note of it. I don't necessarily have a reason why, I just know that I'm really drawn to it, so there might be something there. I don't know really what it is yet, but there might be something. So I started taking photographs while I was out, and I was traveling a lot at the time as well, so while I was traveling, I would take photos of the cloudscapes I would see then. And over time, collecting more and more photos. I mean, I have probably hundreds of photos at this point. Friends and family started sending them to me as well, which was really lovely. People started kind of seeing clouds and like, oh, that reminds me of Courtney. So they would send them to me, and so I would kind of start collecting them. Again, I didn't didn't really know what I was going to do with them, I just know that I love them. So I started looking back on my album of reference photos, looking back through them. And for those of you who have been in to see the show, you can see there's no horizon line, there's no landscape, it's completely above that. And for reference, the photos I was taking also were completely void of any landmarks, any distinguishable anything. So when I would go back and look through them, I realized that I can remember where it was, or who I was with, or, oh yes, I know exactly that cloud, I know my best friend sent it to me. So then that's where my interest really peaked, and I was like, oh, these are kind of like lovely little records of like memories and moments and places and people in a kind of indirect way. Nobody looking at them would immediately know that that's what it's tied to. It's kind of just a relationship that I have with it that I really love. So yeah, that's kind of where it all started. So 2023, I made the first piece to kind of start investigating these forms, and I started working on it. And the first few pieces were done in editions, and so the style is a little bit more, it's tighter, it's made layer by layer. Those are the pieces where you see like 1 of 7, 2 of 8. There's that many identical pieces just like that. So I started working in editions that way. And then as I was making them, I started to kind of want to play with the forms and the lights and just the subject matter a little bit more. And so I started getting into the monotypes that you see. And so those are the really loose ones that kind of like the more painterly. Most of the big ones are made that way. And so those are one of one. They're one of a kind, and the process is a little bit different for those. So yeah, I guess that can be kind of a segue into the process, the media of how these are made. They are all screen prints. So some of you might be familiar with that process. We'll kind of do a crash course. So they're all made using a silk screen. It's this really fine mesh fabric that's stretched to tension over the metal frame. And you push ink through using this rubber squeegee to distribute it and even layer on your paper. And so for the editions that you see in there, each color is done layer by layer, one color at a time, and I basically make stencils in the screen by applying this light-sensitive emulsion. And it cures and hardens and doesn't let any ink through when exposed to UV light, and so block out the areas that I want ink to come through, and then cure the other areas and essentially make a stencil in the screen. So that's how the editions are made, and it's a very planned process. By the time I do a sketch and figure out all my layers, I pretty much know exactly what the finished piece is going to look like before I start printing. And it's very process oriented. And then the monotypes, they're still used on the screen that way, but I'm not using any stencils, any walkouts. I'm painting the ink directly on the screen, and then I'm using background colors. You might see some like hot pinks or some kind of reddish orange on a few of those big ones peeping through, and use that to print with the squeegee and push all of those painted inks down onto the paper. And I noticed as I was making this series that was really important, that like back and forth between the really process-oriented, planned, kind of ordered work, and just the free, loosey-goosey, see where it takes you. You can't do too much planning because it's never going to turn out exactly how you want it to. The monotypes. Yeah, so that's kind of the short and sweet breakdown of kind of getting started and how the work is made. So if anybody has any questions, happy to answer.
What kind of music do you like to listen to while you're working?
I actually have a very short playlist. That's just the title on Spotify is 3 Little Clouds. kind of moving away from that a little bit. Not because I don't love screen print, that's gonna always be there to stay, but I'd like to get back into some etching, some dry point. I haven't cranked up anything through a printing press in far too long, so I'd like to get back into that, and I'd like to get into some figurative work. I found myself more and more drawn to that, which, I mean, in 2020 I was extremely abstract, and it's kind of moved. In this series, it's still, there's that element of abstraction, but the clouds are almost been acting as those figurative forms. So yeah, I'm going to be drawing figurative work next. We'll see.
Can you talk about your titles and the logic behind all that?
Yeah, I tend to title after I'm done working. It's not very often that I think of a title before I start making a piece. I kind of see how the piece turns out and what I kind of feel like. As I mentioned before, some of these are tied to like specific places and people and memories for me, and so there is an element of that, but I wanted to keep it a little bit vague because it's not totally necessary to me that the viewer knows all of that. I want you to be able to have your own kind of relationship to it. Give you one example. The print that was on the exhibition card, the little square one titled Rise, with the little moon. That one, that reference photo was taken on my first morning in Crete. I took a lovely trip with Katie and Seth, my sister over here. So things like that, they're tied a little bit to the places and the memories and the things that they're trying to represent and document. In the case of like the in-between series of monoprints, that's very literal actually. Those are made using the negative space of clouds as kind of the imagery. I layered them over top of each other, and I used 4 stencils in total for every print in that series. I just layered them in different orders and different places of the stencil, using different colors, and yeah, those were all sent to me by a close friend. And so, in that case, the title was just kind of trying to reference that negative space and laying it out there as well.
While you've been observing clouds, have you learned any of the names of the clouds? And if so, is there a certain one that you're excited to see when it pops up into the sky?
I should be better about this. Cumulus, I think. The really fluffy ones that just look like you could take a bite out of them. Those are my favorite. Those get me like a little giddy. I have taken several photos of those while writing.
What difficulty, if any, did you find or did you encounter during production? How did you go about overcoming that?
Yeah, well, Sean kind of brought it up in his intro about when I was first making the first few pieces for the show. I was thinking, if I'm not really careful, this is going to be a bunch of blue squares with white blotches. And I knew that wouldn't be fun for me to make, that's not what I wanted to make. But loosening up from what I was used to working in, I'm a girl who loves books. And so starting out working in those editions and working in that style, that very structured, process-oriented style, I did a few of those, and I love them, and I think they have their place, but I was kind of like, okay, we gotta loosen up a little bit and have some fun, and then start using color a little bit more and variation, so that's what it takes to do it.
Courtney, when I lived out of state for several years, just got back here a couple years ago. Forgive me for not knowing, but what age were you when you decided I want to do this?
I think I have a elementary school, I don't know what grade, probably 3rd or 4th grade questionnaire sheet, you know, you fill out like the about me type thing in the class, and under like what I want to be when I grow up.
when you're staring at these reference photos, you ever notice like common shapes or I don't know, like objects that jump out at you from the clouds?
Sometimes, yeah. I also notice I'm very drawn to like really zooming in. So sometimes yes, but then I'll zoom in past that because I want like those little details of how things overlap and like, yeah. Yeah, I mean, you've all seen the clouds, there's kind of the quintessential shape, but I'm mostly interested in kind of cropping it and getting really, really close to that and seeing what kind of Toby's question, like what negative space I can get in there as well.
Okay.
So, yeah.
I want to follow up on the earlier question about when you decided to be an artist, when you decide that printmaking is going to be your medium.
That was my first year of college, so I was very lucky. I never changed my major in college. I went to college and I said I was going to art school. So yeah, we just had to take a bunch of intro classes, and well, I work with a very lovely printmaker, Cameron, as well. So he might have had some influence on that, but yeah, like I mentioned, I'm a very organized person generally. I like a plan, and printmaking is so process oriented when you want it to be, and that just really lends itself well to how my brain kind of already worked. So yeah, kind of that first year of college.
Some of your prints have a very soft feeling to them, and then others that are really hard edged. Was that a process decision, or was that like more of an emotional decision?
Are you thinking of like kind of some of the additions versus like the monotypes?
Yeah, like the monotypes versus like the other monotypes that you screen printed in the squares.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I think that was, I kind of intentionally used the processes to my advantage there. Because for the really fluffy monotypes, that's what I wanted. I wanted like really voluminous, fluffy to kind of capture that like weightless feeling that you see so much. The square ones that are multicolored and layered on top of each other, that hard edge, that's just because I was using that stencil over and over and over again. And so, yeah, I wasn't trying to capture that kind of weightlessness as much. I was more exploring like the color overlap and the shape. And so, that was just I just decided to use a stencil for that.
It's a great show.
Yeah, don't be afraid to come up and ask me questions. I can talk about printmaking for hours, so I'll be around. Thank you.
During the talk, and haven't had a chance to see it, Courtney's exhibit is in the East Gallery. I also want to point out, if you thought you missed Gallery in Bloom, which was yesterday, happily, you're wrong. It's still on you this afternoon. This is going to be your last chance to see it, so I highly recommend that. And since you're all here, I suspect you like printmaking. We have Cameron Peterson's monotypes upstairs, as well as empty boards. And next weekend, we are going to be having Print Fest, an opportunity to buy unframed prints by over a dozen area printmakers. And not related to printmaking, but still something that you should definitely come back for. Our next quarterly lecture will be here Thursday evening. Doors open at 6. The talk will begin at 6:30. And it'll be about 12 artworks that you are absolutely supposed to know about. I don't know what they are, so